Hey guys, Boris here. Before we jump into today's WOD review, I wish to share that I have finally finished working on my one single united sheet, which is going to contain all the meta notes and the cheat sheets I have made, as they're also going to be kept up to date constantly due to TFT being a rapidly evolving game. Let's quickly take a look at the features I have here. And we also have this navigation panel that you can use. For example, here already we can see we have the general comps list and the tier list of the comps. We also have the option to go here to the strong artifacts in the meta, also the special anima items and the psionic items, as well as emblems and the lines they play into. And as you could saw there as well, we also have the opener augments and the opener units to be holding on to, as well as some of other strong augments to look out to, and gods with general notes how to be playing around each of the gods. And on the cheat sheets aspect, if we find a comp that is here, we can click. That is going to take us over to the cheat sheet I have made. It's currently being in this form due to how spreadsheets are formatted. And for the comps I'm yet to make a cheat sheet, I have some general notes to be looking out for here as well. Things to note, I am only a one dude with a full-time job and other responsibilities, as well as necessity to also play the game in order to develop this meta read, so I might not have the newest updates right on the patch day, but generally I'm going to be going through it at least once a week, making all the updates and all the small adjustments and bits of knowledge that I pick up during my own studies are going to be updated immediately into the sheet as it goes. And now let's jump in game with a pro. For our today's WOD review, we are going to be jumping in game with Setsuko, who, if we take a look at the current standings on the North American ladder, is gapping everyone else by at least 200 LP. And if we just quickly take a look at his stats, over 3/4 of a top 4 rate with 27% win rate. And if we just quickly look at some comps that he's played, we can see 28 games in the last 100 of Vex. That means he's loving that fast 9 playstyle, which you do not see as much in the current meta, as a lot of players are shying away from it. But let's see how Setsuko manages to angle it so much from so many spots, and even sometimes in not the easiest of spots manages to squeeze out top 4s. We are starting out by holding on to these two Prime Econ engine units, that being Rek'Sai right there for the Primordian, as well as the Ezreal there to be playing around the Time Breakers. Otherwise, we are holding units that are going to be synergizing it. Some players would already start holding here onto Akali and try to angle perhaps that Primordian Eco, but we're going to opt making a Cho'Gath and sell it immediately, going with that Akali instead. For our items, they're most likely looking some form of a Spear of Shojin. And for the augment selection, Golden Gamble would be something great if we were able to immediately tempo up, especially if we get that Radiant item. We could be slamming that together with a Shojin, but we do not exactly have an upgraded backliner right now to do so. At what cost is something if you're able to extremely tempo. The downside is detrimental, and once the encounters come out, you could sometimes be a little more picky about how it could be. Essentially, if you know that there's going to be another prismatic augment, you do not want to be clicking this thing. Build a bot is something that could provide us with a clear direction, gain a little bit of extra gold, and perhaps also play to the tempo style, and is going to be the safer option as it guarantees a unit, and we have some potential slam that we could be going for, so going to be defaulting that probably for now. Seems that he's going to be preferring Golden Gamble as a default option. Simply perhaps valuing, since the fast 9 playstyle is going to need so many items, and generally items are a little bit better of a tempo. Hedge Fund is a little bit of greedy play. I personally rate it as a little bit of weaker side, but it's going to even be taking a hit next patch. So perhaps Setsuko already knows of the stats and knows it's going to be stronger. It's going to be definitely stronger than the birthday present as an econ option. And therefore, probably going to be defaulting that for right now. Cursed Crown, something from extreme tempo spots, and I would generally advise against picking up on 2-1. So he's going to be going with the Hedge Fund right here. We have those two Time Breaker already. Generally with this augment, you are fully sacking in order to simply make the econ threshold as fast as you can, and that's why it's amazing in this spot to be noted. But you should have known that we have two Time Breaker in already as well, and we could see that he's already queuing it. Looking at those Forged in Strength players, the augment is extremely busted, especially since they moved the cash out threshold to 40. You can play it in so many comps. They're like half the meta comps can utilize many artifacts. Particularly noteworthy is obviously the mech comp in itself, and we can see that another meta augment being the I believe that's flexible, but essentially any kind of emblem augments, a lot of them are just instant rip at this point. And we are checking our Arbiter as well to make note, and if we are playing for that Vex board, then we could be potentially slotting in Arbiter, and the best one option we have right now is 10 instances of damage dot, and we would be ideally looking for gaining mana from it if you wanted to play around the potential Zoe. Otherwise, ability power is great if you're playing around that LeBlanc. Permanent HP is also not bad if you have that opener to be playing for, but we are playing from a weak opener, so we're probably not going to be able to stack it that high. Perhaps he's just simply scouting for an econ option, going with that ability power, as that's going to be better for the higher cap. Mana gain is simply for that Zoe duo, she becomes an absolute monster at 2-star. Into a going into the world champ Darth Noob right here, who is also playing for some kind of greedy play with that upwards mobility that also generally is going to be playing into those fast 9 comps, but can also have stabilize on 8. The reason why a lot of players are currently shying away from playing that fast 9, since if we are brutal, there are only 2 frontline units, Rammus and Nunu. And Nunu is a CC tank, he's unable to really tank on his own. And they are so co-contested across the rest of the board that you simply, once you make it to your 9, you are unable to find them. Therefore, you need to get there extremely early, which Hedge Fund could allow us. We should know that our God's options are Kale and Echo into this game. That also implies that we are going to have our items a little bit sorted out through other options. And now coming up in the selection right now, we could be gaining a 4 cost in 3 rounds for a little bit of an extra gold and potentially stabilize our board. Or those 2 gloves are also appealing, since if we are playing for a fast 9 playstyle, we're going to be having so many items to carries to itemize. TG is not even the worst pick, and generally aligning ourselves with the Kale is going to allow us to hopefully hit the damage radiant, as that absolutely can make Vex go nuts. We are pretty much full opening, as is Cloud Classic, to see into the current meta, when we see that I believe Phoenixia there is also playing quite open. And yeah, we can see that they are even playing with a single unit on their board. There's a little bit of a stare down matchup going on right now. Hopefully we are able to dodge them and continue our loss streak, even though we won the first round, which is not the greatest for ourselves. And now they have 2 damage dealers, so hopefully they're able to win this round. This Pantheon should... He managed to get a cast off, but the Ezreal is going to be taking him down, so it's nice that we're able to continue our loss streak. Another reason, obviously, why we want to be loss streaking from these kind of items is that first, before that Vex, we want to be sorting out our Rage Blade. The Rage Blade is great, then the Gunblade is the second item that we want, so we definitely are looking for another rod, and then the last slot can be sent with Damage Amp. Void Staff is great. Lots of many options that you can be slotting in. Jeweled Gauntlet is also quite acceptable right there. Therefore, gloves are quite neat. And the Blitzcrank can use those. Jeweled Gauntlet, Hand of Justice. So gloves are actually very good in this comp. But unfortunately, we picked up a win here against Spencer. Just quickly take a look at his positioning right here. It seems that even though our damage was split, and our Ezreal seems to go down first, the Pantheon's casting here simply made him too tanky. I would expect the 2 damage dealers to win there. But our streak is broken, so we are not quite happy. Now we probably are going to be leveling just to secure the win against the PvE round. Obviously, we're going to be losing that, but Kai'Sa here with a little bit of an extra frontline should be quite sufficient. That do not even need to be rolling. So let's see how he manages to pilot from this spot. Yeah, the Crux seems to have gotten the nerf. The Gromp is the real PvE boss of this set. I've seen quite a few Gromp losses in the set. Going to be opting to make that TG right away, slotting that on Urgot, hopefully preserving some life, and we have that Ginsu sorted for ourselves out. Going to be slopping that on Kai'Sa. This is here we are recognizing that at this point we need to be starting to look to save some of our HP, as even though we are quite healthy with 86 due to taking those 2 wins, our board is not going to be able to do much, but any form of 1 or 2 HP that we can save can buy us another round in order for us to reach that cap, hit those 2-star 5 costs, and get there. For our next augment selection right now, we are quite rich, but even though, if we are having to go very early, we might not simply have enough gold. Boxing Lessons is a good combat augment in these comps that run many frontlines, but since we're planning to play around Shen, it's going to lose a lot of value. Find Your Center is quite easy to position around and is only great in something like a Jax. Even with the Mighty Mech, I'm a little skeptical since it opens you for potential of wraps. Branching Out is simply an emblem, a great item. Even though we're having item gods, we have so many carries to itemize, it's just simply better. The tower is an interesting option for us to provide, but generally you would be wanting to take this from a spot where you're able to streak and make that use of that combat power. Focused Fire We are not really playing around an AD carry, therefore branching out simply here is going to be a little bit better option, and Setsuko agrees. We do get that Nova emblem, which as long as we slot in a Nova Ryova unit could actually do something for ourselves. Let's see if he opts to hold onto it or is going to rip a Reforge on it. We have that sword taken, so we cannot slam it right now. Going to be leveling to 6, giving up on making a single interest goal, which is completely fine. Again, just wanting to kill some of the units that we can. Even going to be opting to use one of our removers, so he knows that he can be quite efficient with his itemization. And once we make it to the critical mass, it's not that important if a single item is generally off. This Fast 9 comp has the highest cap and obviously only can lose the 3-star 4 cost, so at some point we're probably only having to look out for that as well. Now simply utilizing our shops to make the strongest board possible. Nice to find that Yi there. Not the Rage Blade, not the greatest item for him, but hey, it's going to be sufficient. It's going to be probably able to pick off a unit or two. As we can see, this seems to be some form of Urgot reroll. Unfortunately, they have the Urgot too, but it's not transformed yet, so are we able to at least get a couple of kills here, getting some units quite low. And it did not seem that, unfortunately, we did not even kill a single unit, only got them quite low. That's a little bit unfortunate. Perhaps need to position in a way to a little bit focus fire more. This is another thing to note. Echo has this option for us to go with a Skull party, which, if we are identifying that we need a little bit more gold, could be decent. And for our components, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, we have exactly the chain and cloak would not transition into anything. Obviously, we have to be thinking of some form of frontline items probably as well, but simply Skull Puddle, we do not need that immediate power right now. We simply want to be able to have enough gold. It's another thing to always note with these Fast 9 comps. If you make it to level 9 with 30 gold, you don't really even have enough gold to make one of your 2-star 5 costs. You need to be getting there from these kind of spots with like 60, 70 gold to be rolling at least in order to stabilize your board, and even then you might not hit more than 1 or 2 2-star 5 costs. They are just every copy you take is taking 5 gold out of your pool, your net. So we are hoping here that since we picked up those 2 wins, we should be quite fine to be sending it on 4-2, making that augment decision very quickly, and then using that extra time to be going there. Obviously cannot be sending it on the PvE round right now. Queuing into the Force and Strength player who has already cashed out, has that Silverman Dawn. Otherwise, it seems, I would assume they are playing from some kind of mech board most likely as well. But we see that the Urgot reroll player therefore has identified and has sent has opted to already roll. We pick up the Tom Kench, but it's just a little bit too late for us to farm extra resources. But we also have to be very flexible with our front lines in these Fast 9 comps. Since we have that issue with the 2 real tanks, we sometimes have to be playing around the Tom Kench, picking up any form of bruiser we can be slotting in. Considering any kind of options of the first unit, we are 2-starring here. Going to be leveling to 8 right now. And sorting our, it seems to be more angling towards the tank items. Didn't find a tier, we but really wanted to find a tier here for at least a Void Staff, if not the Protector's Vow. Going to be opting to slam that GS and QSSS there. That's going to be nice items as well that we can first GS on the Vex, and also QSSS is going to synergize with the Hodge on our melee carry, which most likely is going to be Fiora. For that reason, since we have that Kench, we are holding onto Urgot here as well, and obviously just to deny that reroll a little bit for our last augment selection right now. Bronze for Life opens up an interesting board, and we have opted to play for 5 Nova, but obviously we're going to be dropping most likely out of that. I mean, Setsuko is a player who could obviously figure out the board to be going on from here. I probably couldn't if I'm playing for a Fast 9, but that offers a high potential cap if we are able to get there. Side effects is a decent combat augment for those healing tanks. Now you have to know that then you are locked into specific tanks, since none of them all healed, a lot of them only shield. And healing orbs is generally better in the melee comps or solo frontline comps. They're probably not an option that we're looking for. Going to be defaulting that Bronze for Life. Essentially another great combat option, but is not the strongest unless you're able to make to those stall boards. And we are, while Vex is a stall comp that could generally use it, Misfits actually is career height nice. The neat thing about Misfits is that it's going to be provided bonus HP from the unique traits, that being the orange ones, but you do not need to be playing Rust to gain that HP bonus, nor really Misfortune. Rust is generally going to be fitting nicely. Any board that can utilize Bronze for Life is going to utilize it. Glass Cannon, another decent combat option, but we are simply worried about our front line. Now we make it to level 9 and you can see that we do not even have that much gold. We're luckily able to pick up the Vex 2 extremely fast. Now, this is something just Setsuko can manage to pull off, hitting Vex 2 in 4 rolls. So we are here, but our front line is a little bit still weak, positioning that Shen to give those buffs to the front line, slotting the 3 items on the Vex right there and the TG going onto the Fiora. And this Misfits is going to be generally nice again, identifying that the frontline is the weaker part, especially since we might be sitting on a 1-star frontliner for quite a while, especially since now that we have made that investment into these 5 costs right away. Trying to figure out what might be the strongest board right here, debating between that Rast and the Morgana. Now getting those Bruiser in, we have dropped down to 4 Nova, but since we do not have Shred and Sunder, we are pretty much locked in to be playing around this Aatrox right now. Ideally we're able to get off him at some point as well. And now with this Vex 2 we should be quite stable for the rest of the stage, but we are still opting to roll aggressively to secure these units. Now for our last lot we saw that we just item snap, pick our Kale. We are in our mind at this point, I believe we are saying that we want to be aligning the Kale with due to how strong that Radiant item is, and Artifact item is going to be quite delayed value. We're not exactly on the sufficient life count to be wasting that away. And since we are last slot, Phoenixia seems to have died before that, we are able to pick up a 5 cost from our Pengu selection. We are very close to also to a Graves right now. If we make that Graves too, definitely something that we can be playing around, but the thing to note with Graves, it's even more gold investment over time. Able to pick up a Tom Kench Bear, and what did Kench vomit for us? I did not exactly know. It could have been another 5 cost, but I believe we got the Shen 2 from the orb. So going to be transitioning these attack speed items to the QSS and Hodge to Shen. Shen likes some attack speed, generally not going to be the strongest carry. Obviously would have preferred a Fiora too, but has to suffice. And double GS on the Vex is fine. Any kind of attack speed item is good. Now, again, rolling, able to pick up a Rastu, which is going to be a decent frontline. We can see how aggressively he opts to still just donkey roll here in order to try to secure some form of a frontline and hit these 5 costs. Does not feel exactly safe just yet, and as we are queuing into a mech player who has thankfully missed their Mighty Mech 2. Seems that there might have been a couple of mech players in that case, so we're able to get through them, but still a very close fight. If they had that Mech 2, this might have been a very tough matchup for ourselves. Now, probably looking here, seeming at this boon, we should probably be considering it Short Out Shred for ourselves, and then we could potentially drop out of this Aatrox, since we are running double Bastion. We do not have any Ramesses anti-heal. We have that sorted out, but he's going to be going for it. We do get a Radiant Hodge, not exactly the one we were looking for, but it's going to have to suffice. Making that Maokai to just have to give up on a single Tom Kench to do so. Opted to go for Reforge, so yeah, that was an interesting choice. Now we find that Void Staff, so he pretty much ended up on a Void Staff. I guess he wanted to be picking an option with 2 components just to get a little bit of an extra gold. That would be the most likely of reasons, just to try to secure some of these upgrades. And we had to make the choice early on. Darth Noob here, also on the Fast 9 board, has hit that Blitz 2, Vex 2, but we see this Shen is actually putting in a lot of work right there. Was able to stall through that, and since we have that HP buffer now, we are very strong, and Maokai generally loves that raw HP. Now Tom Kench makes for ourselves an Aatrox too, so I guess we're going to be holding on to that, but now we are transitioning onto this Graves carry a little bit late, but still valuing that Graves is going to be able to utilize these items. I would assume with this itemization we'll most likely be going into that Assault frame. For the other one, you want to be transforming Graves into a Permacaster. Here, as an Assault frame, he can also perhaps work as a pseudo tank to hold down our front line a little bit longer. And we can also see how highly he's still valuing that Rost Aura, carrying that, having that armor and magic resist is nice, and our team loves attack speed. Generally, a lot of boards can't cap with Rost, and as long as you find some kind of sufficient as your buff around like 13, 15 armor magic resist, you are quite fine to be slotting in that rust in your boards if you have a free slot or whenever you're pushing levels. Next item, we would probably be looking for some form of a Shen or Fiora item. Going to be going with the box shot right there for our selection. And able to find a Quicksilver from our item anvil. Again, Shen loves that attack speed, so that's going to be a great option right there. Into a what seems to be some form of a Dark Star Flex from Greya, stuck on level 8, so not going to be the biggest threat for ourselves, able to clean that up quite easily. And now this Graves is going to be starting to stack with Radiant Hedgehog. He should be extremely durable as well. Have managed to find a Fiora 2 for ourselves. Hoping to hold on to the Jhin. I'm not sure how VR would be exactly slotting in Jhin, but perhaps he has a plan. Now, we want that Akali in since we do not have an Infinity Edge or any form of attack speed, but we have these crit items all around, so Akali is quite nice. We can see this is Nova Flex, has worked quite nice. We are playing that Nova Fast 9 rather than the exact standard Vex Fast 9, but both comps can work quite well. Into a top 4, we can see that there's a mech player. We just now have to be very aware for any form of 3-star forecast potentially coming in. Does not seem exactly being right there. So for next upgrade, we are going with... He's debating, I believe, between Buckshot 2. There are certain build paths, and I have listed the main build paths in the meta section of my sheet. You can go check them out. What are the most optimally agreed upon build paths? I believe Wage and Iverson has worked them from a TFT Academy on the TFT Academy website, and I have essentially made a look at what they have published right there. We're going to be pushing our way to level 10, slotting in that Morgana for extra durability, going to synergize quite nice with all that extra HP we are working and provide us with another 55 HP buff on our rest of our team. Into again another fast 9 board, so we see that there's 3 players, and this player seems to have gotten there from a tempos, but that was explained by sometimes some of these units we have to be digging so hard. We can see the frontline issue quite arising, right? We haven't found a Blitz 2, and we haven't really hold on to any Nunus, but we still haven't even found a Tomkench 2. Now we get another Tomkench printed, and it doesn't print us a pair, it prints us a Kindred instead. Not sure why he's going to be going with, assuming that that's the one. They're going to be going with an emergency shield just to keep this Graves a little bit more durable and alive. Find a Morgana 2 as well. So now we are a very critical mass into another form of a Nova board, but this simply is going to have a little bit less of a cap. But they do manage to burst through our front line, but this Graves is just able to tank any form of straight damage that is coming into it. The Fiora tier with the tank TG also quite durable. Now we finally find that Kench 2. Debating where we're going to be putting the Protector's Vow, and is going to be finding a little bit more use on the Morgana as she gains that. You gain more durability when she casts. Going to be opting to go for more of a middle positioning. Seems that we wanted to swap that Vex in the last second, but didn't exactly manage to do so. So hopefully this Blitz is not going to be exactly able to nuke us completely. Our front line does get down, but the Graves is able to get to theirs, and we are able to take the win through that extremely high capped lobby, but very well recognized how to be saving HP from Setsuko. And then, even though we found the Nova emblem, which model players might be a little confused about, we found that we can play playing around this Nova Flex to sort out our utility once needed. And through the mid game, we were playing the strongest board constantly in order to preserve any form of HP. Obviously, we went on a win streak since we were able to find that early Vex 2 before the other Fast 9 players, but the full setup was there, the insurance was there, and then we neatly worked out our itemization, found that Graves 2, and were able to get that stacking quite fast, and that was how we were able to cap out fully and reach the higher cap than other Fast 9 players who are also angling it from, as you can see here, perhaps with a Bronze for Life and Buried Treasures. Generally on paper have stronger augments, but since we were able to push for that tempo, we were able to out cap them. I would like to thank you for watching. The links to the sheet and all my cheat sheets are available in the link down below. I hope that you learned something new, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.